Why had the radios gone quiet? 12 seals pinned in a canyon that eats aircraft whole, and suddenly nothing. No more calls, no more screaming coordinates, just static and the slow hum of dying hope. They stopped calling for help because they knew no one was coming. Up there in the war room at Bram Airfield, they'd already written them off. KIA, pending confirmation. The words that end lives twice, once on paper, once in the mind. But the desert isn't kind to finalities. Somewhere beyond the ridges, a sound begins to rise, low at first, then louder, the sound of something angry, mechanical, alive. Engines, not the thin scream of a drone or the distant thunder of a jet. This one growls, heavy, relentless, like the sky itself grinding its teeth. Every fighter down there, every insurgent who's learned to stop fearing death looks up. And they remember. 2 years ago, one pilot carved through this same valley and came out alive. A woman, a name whispered like a rumor. The Americans called her Reaper. The locals called her Al, the war woman. She was grounded after that, erased from rosters, stripped of clearance, buried under paperwork and blame. But now that sound is back. The men in the canyon can't see her yet, but they know. Captain Wolf doesn't ask permission anymore. At Bram Airfield, the heat sits on the concrete like punishment. Jet fuel stings the air, a chemical memory that never leaves. Sits on the bench outside Hangar 14, the same bench she's worn smooth over 8 months of waiting. Her flight suit hangs open to the waist. Sweat cuts through the dust on her collarbone, tracing old scars. She doesn't look at the sky anymore. The sky doesn't look back. Her eyes stay fixed on the gray A-10 parked in shadow 30 meters away. Warthog 51, her aircraft, her home. 8 months since she last touched its controls. 8 months since they told her she'd never fly again. 8 months since she saved 4 soldiers by breaking every rule in the book. She hasn't slept right since. Every day she sits here pretending she's waiting for something. Orders, apologies, maybe forgiveness, but really she's waiting for a reason to stop feeling useless. A mechanic passes by, grease-stained arms, tired eyes. Doesn't look at her, just mutters 2 words as he walks past. Coast Canyon. Freezes, the name hits her like voltage. She stands before she even realizes it, the bench scraping behind her. She doesn't ask what happened, doesn't need to. If someone, saying that name out loud, people are dying. The mechanic keeps walking, smart man. Crosses the tarmac, boots striking concrete in a rhythm her body still remembers. The stride changes halfway across, the easy walk replaced by the controlled urgency of a pilot with purpose. The crew chief sees her coming. Kid maybe 22. He stiffens, starts to speak, but his hand drops from his radio. He knows who she is. Everyone does. She reaches the Warthog, runs her hand along the fuselage. The metal is hot, sun-baked from the last mission. Patched, but not painted. They never bothered to fix the paint. Easier to let her bird rot quietly than admit they'd need her again. "Ma'am, you're not cleared." She's already climbing the ladder. The cockpit smells like hydraulic oil and old leather. It smells like home. She slides in, straps down. Hands move on instinct. Master switch. Battery. APU start. The system's grown awake, reluctant, like she's shaking something sacred out of a long sleep. The cockpit lights come alive. Fuel 68%. Hydraulics yellow. Flares questionable. Guns green. Good enough. Inside the operations center, chaos hums. Screens glow. Radios chatter. Men speak in clipped urgency. Somewhere in the middle of it all, Lieutenant Colonel Thomas Caldwell stands tall and silent, gray at the temples, shoulders carved from regulations. He's a by-the-book commander, and right now the book is useless. Major Hammond leans over the table, a map glowing under his fingertips. His beard hides most of the exhaustion. He's seen too many missions turn into obituaries. Status on Indigo 5. Caldwell's voice is flat. Last transmission 4 minutes ago, says Lieutenant Melissa Cross, the young intelligence officer whose hands haven't stopped shaking since dawn. Down to 2 mags per man, multiple casualties, requesting extraction. The room goes quiet, not silent, worse than silent. Everyone knows what those words mean. The throat, someone mutters. Caldwell's jaw tightens. Available air assets. 2 Apache Chapman, Hammond answers. 4 F-16s here, 1 Reaper drone over Kandahar. Get them in the air. Sir, the canyon's a kill box. 92% loss rate. 7 aircraft down in 3 years. The Apache won't risk it. The F-16s can't fly that low. I know the geography, Major. Then you know what you're asking. Caldwell looks at him, eyes like steel. Those are 12 American operators dying in that canyon. We don't write them off. I'm not suggesting we do. I'm saying we need another way. What other way? No one answers. Then a new voice cuts across the room. Sir, unauthorized engine start, hangar 14. Everyone freezes. Caldwell turns. Identify. Staff Sergeant's fingers fly over the keyboard. His face drains. Tail number Alpha 72. Caldwell's eyes narrow. Warthog 51. The air changes. Everyone in that room knows that tail number. Who authorized this? No one, sir. Hammond closes his eyes. It's Wolf. Caldwell's voice goes low. Dangerous. Get me tower now. Inside the tower, Sergeant grips his headset. Warthog 51, you are not cleared for taxi. Return to hangar 14 immediately. No answer. The A-10 keeps rolling, engines spooling higher. Warthog 51, acknowledge. Nothing. Captain Wolf, this is a direct order. The radio hisses silence wrapped in defiance. Watches the aircraft reach the threshold. Engines thunder. The ground vibrates. She's taking the runway. Block it, Caldwell's voice through the comms. Too late, sir. The A-10 surges forward. Wheels lift. The Warthog claws into the sky. Stares, he's never seen a takeoff that aggressive, or that desperate. Inside the cockpit climbs hard. G-forces press her against the seat. She ignores the shouting in her headset, orders, threats, promises of court-martial. She's already been grounded, already lost everything. What else could they take? The canyon is 40 kilometers east. She banks left, levels at 2,000 feet. The desert stretches endless below. Her radio clears, one voice cuts through the static. Caldwell. Wolf, turn around, that's not a request. She doesn't answer. Captain, you are violating direct orders, if you continue. She keys her mic. There already were. Click, silence. On the ground, the SEALs cling to survival. Master Chief Reeve Kingston presses his back against a boulder slick with blood, not his. Not yet. His team is scattered across 30 meters of hell, pinned from 3 sides, 2 men dead, 3 more wounded. Every bullet sounds closer. He's been doing this 20 years, knows the difference between courage and stupidity, knows when the math runs out. 40 rounds per man, his radio operator calls. Kingston nods. 15 minutes, then it's rocks and knives. He looks down the canyon where the walls curve inward, nowhere to run. Above them, Commander watches through binoculars, bearded, composed, eyes like judgment. They've stopped firing, says his second. They're conserving ammo, replies. It won't matter. The canyon will finish them soon enough. Hesitates, and the woman lowers the binoculars. A muscle twitches in his cheek. She won't come. But if she does... He turns his gaze east, toward the sound already whispering across the sky. Then we'll be ready this time. At Bram, alarms pulse red. On the main screen, a radar track climbs out of the airfield. No transponder, no clearance. Caldwell stares. She's really doing it. Hammond shakes his head. She's gone rogue. Or she's saving them. Captain Viper enters the room, helmet under her arm, former friend, now rival. Sir, I can intercept, force her back. Caldwell doesn't look at her. Negative. She's violating orders. She's flying into a kill zone to save 12 men. We're not wasting time stopping her. His jaw tightens, then you're letting her die. She made that choice the second she took off. Spots the canyon ahead, jagged ridges rising like teeth against the sun. She drops lower, 1,000 feet, 800, 500. The A-10 trembles, 8 months of dormancy shaking loose. She can feel the fatigue in the airframe, the resistance in the hydraulics. But the bird flies, that's all that matters. The radio crackles again, a different voice. Reaper, this is Storm Glass. His breath catches. Her first instructor, Colonel Sloan, retired now, the woman who taught her how to fly this beast. You're heading into the throat, Sloan says. Yes, ma'am. They're saying you're not cleared, that you're violating half the Air Force manual. Yes, ma'am. Silence, then a faint chuckle. You remember what I taught you about that canyon. Fly low, trust the bird, don't think. And if you're going to do something stupid, do it fast. A pause. Good hunting, Reaper. The canyon looms ahead, dark and waiting. Exhales, steadies her hand on the throttle. For the first time in months, she doesn't feel grounded. She feels alive. Behind her, the base scrambles, trying to make sense of the madness. Ahead of her, 12 men fight for seconds they don't have. And between them, one woman, one aircraft, one impossible mission. As the canyon rises to swallow her, the world narrows to metal, motion, and heartbeat. No thoughts, no rules, no permission. Just purpose. Just flight. What kind of person flies into hell twice? Used to think courage meant not feeling fear. Now she knows better. Courage is flying anyway, even when every part of you knows you shouldn't. The canyon yawns ahead, dark and ancient. It doesn't welcome her, it tests her. The walls rise like stone jaws, their shadows swallowing the sun. The sound inside changes, the engines echo off rock faces, doubling back like ghosts. Drops to 200 feet. The altimeter screams. She silences it with a flick of her finger. She doesn't need instruments to tell her how close death is. The air gets rough, turbulence slamming her shoulders against the harness. She rides it like a living thing, adjusting trim, rudder, throttle. Her heartbeat syncs with the hum of turbines. She knows this canyon, knows its shape, its traps, its appetite. It's where she lost her faith in orders, and maybe where she'll find her purpose again. 8 months ago, different valley, different hell. Her voiceover would slow here, a whisper. Routine patrol, 12 soldiers moving through a valley west of Kandahar. Intel said it was clear. Intel lied. The IED went first, then the ambush, gunfire from both ridges, chaos. She remembers the radio screaming for help. She remembers command answering with words colder than gunmetal. Area too hot, fall back. They ordered her to watch men die. She didn't. She landed the A-10 in a dry riverbed under fire, dragged 2 bleeding soldiers into the belly bay, a space meant for ammo, not people. She flew them out on fumes and defiance. Both men lived. The report called it reckless disregard for command protocol. The world called it heroism. Command called it insubordination. She got grounded. They said she had a problem with authority. They weren't wrong. Now, as she threads the warthog through rock corridors barely wider than her wings, she knows she's not here to prove them wrong. She's here because there's no one else who will do it. Inside the operations center, the silence feels heavier than the desert outside. Caldwell leans over the map table. Where is she now? Staff Sergeant stares at his screen. Below radar cover, sir. She's in the canyon. Caldwell's knuckles whiten. Keep the channel open. If she calls, you answer. Major Hammond watches the drone feed. From above, the canyon looks like a scar cut into the earth, narrow, twisted, inescapable. "She's either the bravest pilot I've ever seen," Hammond mutters, "or the craziest." Caldwell doesn't answer, maybe both. The canyon tightens, 45 feet across. Her wingspan is 57. Physics says no, but physics never met Captain Wolfe. She banks 90 degrees, flies knife edge, wings vertical, slicing sideways through the throat of the canyon. The HUD flashes warnings. She ignores them all. Her breathing stays steady, in through the nose, out through the mouth. She doesn't fight the aircraft, she lets it move through her, a connection of bone and steel. The walls slide past 6 feet from each wingtip, then 5, then 4. It lasts 8 seconds, feels like 8 years. Then daylight. The canyon widens again, a basin opening like an amphitheater of dust and death. Down below she spots movement, muzzle flashes, heat blooms on the ridges. Indigo 5, the SEAL team. "Reaper, this is Indigo 5 taking heavy fire." Kingston's voice, strained but steady. "Multiple casualties North Ridge, 50 meters above position." Keys her mic. "Copy, 2 minutes out, keep your heads down." The channel goes quiet, then one of the voices in the background. "Is that Wolfe?" She doesn't answer, words won't help them. She lines up the shot. Her thumb hovers over the trigger. The GAU-8 Avenger, a cannon that can chew through tanks, mounted to an aircraft built around it. She exhales once. "Let's dance." The gun speaks. BRRRT. The sound isn't gunfire. It's thunder wrapped in rage. The whole aircraft shakes. The recoil slows her airspeed, throws her forward in the harness. 70 rounds of depleted uranium tear through the North Ridge. Rock disintegrates. The firing stops. Below, Kingston ducks behind cover as stone, and dust rain down. "Holy," one of his men whispers. Kingston cuts him off. "Keep working." But he can't hide the flicker of awe in his eyes. They told stories about her, the grounded pilot who didn't take orders, the woman who broke the canyon curse. They didn't think she was real. Now she is. In the operations center, Hammond exhales for the first time in minutes. She made contact. Caldwell watches the feed, the basin filled with smoke and shifting dust. She's buying them time. "Until when?" Hammond asks quietly. Caldwell doesn't answer. Banks hard left climbing. Her eyes flick across the panels. Fuel 56%, hydraulics yellow, flares unstable, guns green. "Good enough." Movement on the East Ridge. 2 men, 1 launcher, RPG. She rolls inverted. The canyon flips upside down, the earth spinning above her canopy. She dives from that position, gravity helping, speed doubling. Trigger squeeze, 1 second burst. The launcher disappears in a bloom of rock and fire. Secondary explosion. She rolls upright again, leveling off inches above the canyon wall. "Not today," she mutters. Her radio crackles. "Reaper, this is Indigo 5. North Ridge clear, east neutralized, south still active." "Copy," making another pass. She banks toward the southern outcrop, sees the glint before the smoke missile launch. "Ah, hell." The threat warning screams. She counts 1, 2. At 3 she pops flares. 2 streaks of white-hot magnesium explode behind her. The missile chases the heat, detonating 50 feet off her tail. The shockwave slams the aircraft, peppering the fuselage with shrapnel. The warning lights flash red across the panel. Left stabilizer hit. Not critical yet. She climbs, loops wide, comes back from another angle. Short burst, 30 rounds, the south outcrop disintegrates. Down below, Kingston waves his team forward. "Move now." The SEALs haul their wounded, dragging gear through dust and chaos. Petty Officer Fletcher, 24, shrapnel in his leg, grits his teeth as Doc Monroe carries him. "You still with me, Rook?" Fletcher tries to smile. "Can't feel my leg." "That's the good stuff I gave you," Doc lies. "You're fine." The kid laughs once, half a sound, then passes out. Kingston glances up at the sky, watching the A-10 arc overhead. "Yeah," he whispers, "that's Wolf." On the northern ridge, lowers his binoculars. His jaw tightens. "She flies differently now," says beside him. "Angry." She always flew angry. That's what made her dangerous. He studies the sky. The A-10 banks in a wide turn, trailing smoke, damaged but alive. "Pull the teams back to secondary positions," he says. Frowns bait the trap. Nods. She saved them once, she'll try to save them again, and that's when we end her. At Bram paces in the ready room, helmet still under her arm. She can't stand still. She hears every radio call, every gun run, every warning tone echoing through the comms. "Sir, permission to launch," she calls into the ops net. "I can provide overwatch." "Negative." "Canyon's too narrow, Captain. You'd be a liability." She clenches her fists. She's flying alone down there. She chose that. Turns away, jaw trembling with something between anger and guilt. They were friends once, shared drinks, flight hours, secrets. Then's disobedience burned everything. Now, watching her fly into the abyss alone, wonders if maybe she was the one who quit too early. Radio crackles again, another voice, calm, professional. "Reaper, this is Bram TOC. Lieutenant, you're approaching the narrowest section, 45 feet wide. Recommend you climb." "Negative, climbing makes me a target, staying low." A pause. "Good luck, Captain." She doesn't answer. Luck isn't part of this anymore. She lowers the nose, hugging the canyon floor. Wind shear slams her from the side. She corrects instantly. Sunlight flickers through the dust, a strobe of light and shadow. For a heartbeat, the world feels weightless. Then a memory cuts through. Her father's voice, from years ago, back when flying still felt like freedom. "Don't ever fight the sky, it's older than you, smarter than you. Learn its rhythm and it'll carry you home." She swallows hard. He died in an A-10, same model, same mission. She flies on. The canyon bends again. The world tilts. She banks 90 degrees once more, flying knife edge through rock and wind. The clearance is less than a meter. The radio squeals static. Then Kingston's voice, "Reaper, we've got you on visual. North and east are clear, south still hot." "Copy," going silent. She flips the switch. No chatter, no noise. Just her heartbeat, and the sound of the cannons rotating barrels cooling in the dry wind. The canyon swallows her whole. At the operations center, screen blinks red. "Sir, we lost her radar return." Caldwell stares at the static feed. She's below coverage. "Should I maintain the channel?" "If she calls," Caldwell says quietly, "you answer." No one breathes. Hammond finally mutters, "You think she makes it out?" Caldwell watches the canyon, the place that's devoured 7 aircraft, countless men. "I think," he says slowly, "that if anyone does, it's her." In the cockpit, feels the world close around her. The light fades, the rock turns from red to black, the air thins. Every instinct screams to climb, to get out. She doesn't. Instead, she whispers to the machine like it's alive, "Stay with me." The aircraft shudders once, then steadies. Outside, the ridges echo with gunfire she can't yet see. Inside, one woman breathes slow, steady, ready. 12 men ahead of her, 50 enemies around her. And behind her, an entire system that already gave up. But she didn't come here for them. She came for the ones still fighting. And for the ones who couldn't. Sometimes, the bravest thing isn't to fight orders. It's to fight despair. And Wolf was never good at quitting. She pushes the throttle forward, dives deeper into the dark. The canyon answers with silence, the kind that waits before it strikes. How long can someone fly on instinct before instinct turns into fate? Doesn't think about it, she can't afford to. The canyon curves left, then drops into another basin, a place of shadows and echoes. The warthog hums like a heart under pressure, steady but straining. Her HUD flickers, the heat inside the cockpit rises, hydraulic temperature climbing. She loosens her grip on the stick, lets the aircraft breathe. The first time she flew through here, the world called it impossible. The Air Force called it a miracle. But miracles come with invoices, and she's been paying for that one ever since. Below, gunfire starts again, sporadic probing, not aimed at her, not yet. They're testing, waiting for the rhythm of her flight. She rolls right, hides the aircraft behind the canyon wall. Her shadow vanishes from sight. That's when the voice comes through the radio, not friendly, not command. "Captain Wolf." She freezes. The voice is male, accented, calm, too calm. "I know you can hear me." She doesn't answer. I wanted to say, "Welcome back." Static crackles, but she hears it clearly, that slow, deliberate tone of someone who's already in control. "I've been waiting 2 years for this." Her stomach drops. "Who is this?" "I think you already know." She does. "Commander." The man whose name lived in the whispers of Afghan hills. Once an ally, now the architect of every canyon death since. "You saved 10 Marines 2 years ago," he continues. "You remember that day, don't you? Your engines almost failed. You cut through the valley like a blade, beautiful flying." She says nothing. "But you made mistakes." The word mistakes burns like fuel vapor. He continues, calm, conversational. "I studied those mistakes. I built this canyon around them. You see, Captain, I was trained by your people. I know how you fly. I know your doctrine. I know your arrogance." "Cut the lecture," she mutters. He chuckles softly. "Still angry, still reckless. You haven't changed." "I'm not here for you." "No, you're here for the 12 men below, because you can't help yourself. You see someone dying and you have to interfere. Predictable." She banks hard, the canyon flashing past her canopy in blurs of stone and dust. "You've studied me," she says, voice tight. "Then you know what happens when I get close." He laughs, not mocking, appreciative. "Yes, that's why I prepared." Her radar pings, 4 heat signatures, ambush positions she didn't see before. RPGs light the ridges like lightning strikes. "Talk later," she growls. She rolls right, dives. The missiles streak toward her, contrails carving white arcs through the narrow sky. "Come on." She squeezes the triggers, flares burst. Bright magnesium fire fills the canyon. The missiles chase the heat, detonate behind her in twin flashes. The shockwave lifts her 2 meters. The aircraft lurches, warning alarms screaming. She silences them all. "Not yet." Her HUD clears 2 targets remaining on the ridge. She lines them up. Short burst, the GAU-8 speaks. "BRRRT." The ridge dissolves into fragments. She pulls up, breathes, checks the instruments. Fuel 48%, hydraulics bleeding pressure, right engine temperature redlining. It's getting worse. And she's not even halfway through. In the operations center, the room smells of sweat and coffee gone stale. Lieutenant Cross stares at the feed, lips parted. She's fighting half the canyon alone. Caldwell doesn't look up. She's keeping them alive, that's enough. Hammond leans closer to the map. "Sir, it's too quiet, he's setting something up." Caldwell glances at him. "Then we better hope Wolf finishes before he does." Down in the canyon, the light shifts, afternoon dying into dust-orange haze. Steadies her breathing. Her voice, if anyone could hear it, would sound like someone fighting to keep control. "You think I'm predictable," she whispers into the mic. "Then predict this." She banks into a climb, rolls to knife edge, drops her nose through a 90-degree dive straight at the ground. The altimeter spins. 200 feet. 150. She pulls level barely. The warthog screams through the canyon floor, shaking the stone. Gunfire chases her, tracers painting orange lines across the air. But she's too fast, too low. She passes directly over one of its firing nests. Short burst, rock and sand erupt like geysers. Then quiet. Only the roar of her engines and her own heartbeat. Somewhere above, in a control van camouflaged against the ridge, listens to the radio. His men look uneasy. She's not human, one mutters. His eyes narrow. She's human, that's why she's dangerous. Machines don't care, humans do. That's what makes them act stupidly heroic. He lifts his binoculars. Through them, he watches the gray aircraft loop around again. She's bleeding fuel, he notes. Left wing route not long now. His second shifts beside him. Then why not finish her? Because she hasn't made the mistake yet. What mistake? The one I designed for her. He smiles, thin and cold. Back in the cockpit, wipes sweat from her temple. Her gloves are slick. She flips a switch, rerouting hydraulic pressure to primary control surfaces. The stick stiffens in her hands. Her radio crackles again, a different voice, softer. Reaper, this is. I've been monitoring your telemetry. Fuel's dropping fast. You need to climb and before you're trapped. She exhales. Can't, the seals aren't clear. There are other assets. No, there aren't. Silence, then says quietly, understood. God go with you. She almost smiles. He's busy. Below, Kingston drags another man behind cover. His arms ache, lungs burn. Dust clogs his throat. Status, he shouts. Fletcher's fatting. We're down to our last tourniquet. Hold him. He leans against the boulder, looks up at the sky, that impossible sky, and sees the gray banking for another run. She's still there, still fighting. Reaper, this is Indigo 5, he radios. We've cleared 200 meters of ground, path still blocked, we're working it. Her voice comes back calm. Copy, I'll keep them busy. Negative, Reaper, you're low on fuel, we'll manage. She hesitates. He hears it, the breath before truth. No, you won't. And the line goes dead. Kingston stares at his radio. God damn it. His mind drifts as she lines up her next run. Not far, just a flicker. Her brother, San, Navy man. Married, kids. The normal life she never wanted but sometimes envies. When she got grounded, he called her every day. She didn't pick up. She didn't know what to say. How do you explain to someone who's never flown what it means to lose the sky? Now, inside this cockpit, with the canyon walls vibrating inches from her wingtips, she feels closer to him than she has in years. Because they're both still serving something. He just has a family to come home to. She has ghosts. Her radar lights again, multiple contacts. Small, mobile, vehicles entering from the southern entrance. She zooms in, technicals, machine guns mounted, a full company's worth. It's reinforcing, she mutters. He's making this a cage fight. Her HUD blinks, low fuel, 27%. She could turn back now, glide home, let someone else finish the story. But she knows there's no one else. She banks, lines up for another pass. At Bram, the tension breaks into argument. Sir, she's still engaging. We have to order her back. Order her, Caldwell snaps. She stopped listening to orders 8 months ago. She's going to die in there. Caldwell looks at the map, a canyon of red lines and impossible angles. Maybe, he says softly, but 12 others won't. The canyon narrows again, this one than before. She checks the schematic, 43 feet wall to wall. Her wingspan still 57. No way through, unless she flies sideways. She banks hard right 90 degrees, wings vertical. The aircraft slides between the walls like a blade between ribs. Every vibration feels like the edge of failure. The radio hisses. Captain Wolf says, voice silk and venom, "You can still pull out, I'll even let you live." "You'll let me." "Turn around, go home. Tell your commanders it was impossible. They'll believe you, they always do." "Not this time." "Then you die for them, for a government that punished you for saving lives." "I don't fly for them anymore." He's quiet for a second. "Then who do you fly for?" She looks out at the horizon, the thin slit of light ahead. "For the ones who can't." She cuts the radio. Outside, the world is chaos. RPGs streak from the ridges. Machine gun fire rattles the air. Drops below it, 10 feet above the canyon floor. The walls rush past in blurs. Her right engine sputters. Warning lights flare again. She throttles back. The engine coughs, catches, steadies, barely. Her bird is dying, but it's still flying. She can't help but whisper, "Stay with me, girl." For a moment the controls feel lighter, as if the aircraft heard her. She lines up on the western ridge, squeezes the trigger. The GAU-8 roars. Stone turns to dust. The gun stops, empty chamber. She checks ammo, 100 rounds left. "One more run," she says aloud. Up on the ridge, lowers his binoculars. She's leaking fuel, ammunition low. She'll try one last pass. Nods. "Should we withdraw?" "No, we end it now." He lifts his radio. "All units, target the tail, wound the bird, make her bleed." Inside the cockpit, feels the hit before she sees it. A sharp jolt, then another. The rear panel flashes red. Left stabilizer gone. The warthog lurches sideways, yawing hard. She wrestles the stick, compensates with rudder, throttle, muscle. The aircraft steadies, limping through air that wants her dead. His voice cuts through the radio again. "You're running out of wings, Captain." "Yeah," she breathes, sweat dripping down her neck. "But I've still got claws." She banks, dives again, firing the last of her ammunition in a burst that shakes the ground. The sound rolls through the canyon like a heartbeat fatting in distance. When it's done, she climbs, not far, just enough to see the whole battlefield. The SEALs are moving, carrying the wounded, clearing the last choke point. They're alive. She allows herself one breath of relief. Then looks at the fuel gauge, 24%. Her reflection in the cracked canopy looks back at her, eyes tired, jaw set, alive in the place no one's supposed to live. She doesn't smile. There's nothing to smile about yet. Because deep down, she knows right about one thing. This canyon isn't just rock and dust. It's a machine built by grief, powered by vengeance. And she's flying straight through its heart. Sometimes redemption doesn't wait for permission. It just takes the controls and flies into the dark. And that's exactly what Captain Wolf does. What happens when the machine you trust most begins to die beneath you? Had never feared death, but she feared losing control. The A-10 shakes like it's breathing its last. Warning lights blink in a slow, fatting rhythm. Fuel 17%. Left stabilizer gone. Hull integrity critical. The radio hums with distant chatter, indistinct, chaotic. Command, the SEALs, men, all bleeding into one mess of noise. She tunes it out. Her world has narrowed to metal and muscle. Every vibration is a word, every sound a pulse. The canyon stretches ahead, wide again, deceptively safe. The light returns. Dusk glows gold in the sun. It almost looks peaceful. That's how you know it's a trap. Down below, Kingston and his men push forward through the canyon floor. They're filthy, exhausted, and still dragging the wounded. Doc Monroe presses a bandage against Fletcher's side. Blood soaks through instantly. "Pressure," he mutters, voice rough. "Just pressure." Kingston crouches beside him. "Status." Monroe shakes his head, kids fatting. Kingston glances toward the sky, that sound again, faint but steady. The A-10 circling like an old guardian refusing to leave. She's still up there, Monroe says quietly. Yeah, Kingston replies, but for how long? In the operations center, the mood shifts from tension to helplessness. Looks pale. Sir, telemetry shows fuel at 15%. She won't make it home. Caldwell doesn't blink. She knows. Hammond slams a folder onto the table. Then pull her out. She's done enough. She'll never listen. Then make her listen. Caldwell turns, eyes sharp as razors. You ever tried commanding a storm, Major? The room goes silent. Caldwell continues, softer now. You don't stop people like her. You just hope they finish what they came for before the sky runs out. Back in the cockpit, the radio crackles, a voice she didn't expect. To Reaper 1. Freezes. Reaper 1, do you copy? Hesitates, then replies, go ahead. I'm in the air, got clearance to cover your egress. Almost laughs, a single disbelieving breath. They finally let you launch. They didn't. You went rogue. Guess it's contagious. For a moment, silence, two pilots who once flew side by side, now orbiting the same madness again. Your fuel bleeding out, says. You've got maybe 20 minutes. Plenty. Reaper, listen, this isn't saving them anymore. This is suicide. Stone stays calm. That depends who walks out. His voice breaks slightly. You don't have to prove anything. I'm not. Then why? Cuts her off, because I can't watch it happen again. Static, then the line goes dead. Far below's convoy moves into the basin, black trucks, mounted guns, banners whipping in the wind. Dust storms rise behind them. He stands in the lead vehicle, wind tugging at his scarf. She's running out of sky, says beside him. Nods, then she'll make her stand here. He looks toward the cliffs, scanning for motion. Set the signal charges. Collapse the exit once she enters. I want her trapped with the Americans. Hesitates, you'll be trapped too. His expression doesn't change. If she dies by my hand, that's victory enough. He lifts his radio. When she dives, trigger it. Spots them, the convoy, the dust trails, the guns glinting in sunlight. She angles her bird toward them, lining up. Her HUD flashes low fuel. Ammo depleted, hydraulics fail. She ignores them all. There's still one weapon left, the one she swore she'd never use without orders. The GAU-8 is dry, but under her left wing sits a single, forgotten friend, 182 low-drag general-purpose bomb. Unarmed because the mission wasn't supposed to exist, but never cared much for supposed to. She arms it manually, bypasses the safety, overrides the fire control. The confirmation tone beeps weakly. Still with me, she whispers. She pulls higher, the engines groaning, smoke trailing from her wing. The canyon walls shake from the thrust. Below sees her coming. Now he orders. His men hit the detonators. The canyon roars. Explosions ripple across the ridges, a wave of collapsing rock. The exit narrows, the air fills with stone and fire. Feels the blast before she hears it, a wall of force slamming into her side. The A-10 rolls, lurches, spins. She fights the stick, muscles screaming. Come on, not yet. The altimeter spirals. 300 feet, 200. She stabilizes at 100 and climbs back, barely. Watches, incredulous, she's still flying. Swallows, she shouldn't be. No, whispers, she shouldn't. The SEALs feel the tremor from below. Dust falls like rain. Kingston looks up, the sky half fire, half debris. What the hell happening up there? Monroe shields his eyes. She's hit. Then we move faster, Kingston growls. Go. He pushes forward, adrenaline replacing exhaustion. Every sound is thunder. every second borrowed. He doesn't know it yet, but above him is doing the same. Inside the cockpit, half the instruments are dead. The right MFD flickers, the left HUD cracked. She can still see the convoy through the haze, black dots crawling toward the SEAL's position. Her thumb hovers over the release switch. She could end it now, drop the bomb, level the basin. But the SEALs are still there. Her heart thunders, every breath a war. If she hits them, she saves them. If she misses, she kills them. No good options, only the one she can live or die with. The radio crackles again. Don't do it. You're reading my mind again. There are friendlies down there. I know. Then hold, wait for me. Glances at her panels, F-16 still 10 miles out, too far. Sorry, Viper. She flips the safety cover off the release. One last dance. She pushes the stick forward. The A-10 dives. From the canyon floor, Kingston sees it, the gray beast descending through the clouds of dust and fire, trailing smoke like a comet. Jesus, he breathes. Monroe stares, all replacing fear. She's diving right on top of them. Kingston grabs the radio. Reaper, this is Indigo 5. Abort, we're too close. No answer. The dive steepens. The sound is indescribable, not an aircraft, not a machine. Something primal, something furious. She locks onto the convoy, heart pounding in rhythm with the tone of the targeting computer. The lock beeps steady. She whispers, for them. She flips the switch. The bomb releases. A heartbeat later, silence. Then light. The explosion ripples through the canyon, a rolling detonation of dust, fire, and echoes that climb into the heavens. The shockwave punches through the ridges, flattening trucks, throwing men from cover, consuming everything in its path. The SEALs are thrown to the ground, deafened but alive. The convoy disappears in a cloud of fire. For a long moment, there's nothing but smoke and ringing ears. Then slowly the echoes fade. The canyon falls silent again. Up above, the A-10 climbs, but barely. Smoke trails from both engines now. Breathes in ragged gasps, her body feels heavy, vision tunneling. The fuel gauge blinks red, single digits. She tries to radio, static. Then a faint voice. Pull up, you're too low. She looks ahead, the canyon rising again, the exit collapsing in smoke. Too late, she whispers. She banks, searching for open sky, finds none. Viper, if they made it out, tell command they're alive. No. Tell them, she pauses, breath trembling, I finished what I started. Static swallows the rest. On the canyon floor, Kingston and his team crawl from cover. Smoke hangs thick, glowing with embers. The air smells of jet fuel and burnt metal. Reaper, this is Indigo 5, Kingston calls, voice raw. Do you copy? Reaper, do you? A sound answers him. A deep, wounded growl of turbines overhead. They all look up. The A-10, scorched and crippled, banking low, too low. Jesus Christ, Monroe breathes. Kingston drops his radio. She's trying to clear the ridge. The aircraft climbs, barely clearing the first rise, then clips the second. Metal screams, sparks shower across the sky. The nose dips. And then she's gone. A fireball blooms on the horizon, swallowed by the canyon shadows. Silence returns, heavy and unreal. Monroe removes his helmet. She didn't eject. Kingston stares at the horizon, eyes burning. She wouldn't. He looks down at the dust, his voice breaking. She'd never leave the bird. In the operations center, the radar screen goes blank. Whispers, lost signal. No one speaks. Caldwell lowers his head. Hammond's voice is barely a breath. Did she? Caldwell cuts him off. Get the recovery team ready, now. No ceremony, no tears, just the quiet of men who understand what she gave. Outside, the sun sets over Bram Airfield. The heat fades, the desert exhales. And for a brief second, the horizon glows, one last light where she fell. High above the canyon circles the smoke, tears streaking through her visor. "Reaper, this is Viper," she whispers, voice trembling. "You saved them, you did it." The calm stays silent. She looks toward the burning ridge. "You always were better at goodbyes." Then she banks east and climbs into the setting sun, leaving the canyon behind. On the ground, Kingston and his men begin their climb toward the wreckage. No one speaks. When they reach it, what's left of the Warthog sits broken against the stone, wings torn, fuselage half buried. The paint still visible, the gray wolf emblem near the cockpit. Kingston kneels beside it, brushes dust from the metal. He doesn't find her, not yet. But he finds the dog tag, bent, scorched, still legible. Wolf KIRAM. He closes his fist around it. "She didn't quit," he murmurs. Monroe looks up. "None of us will after this." Kingston nods once, then she did her job. Sometimes the measure of courage isn't who comes home. It's who refuses to stop flying, even when the sky itself says no. And somewhere in that canyon, as the wind howls through the wreckage and the dust settles into silence, the desert keeps her secret. Because dignity doesn't speak. It simply acts. Why do the echoes always come after the silence? 3 hours since the explosion. The canyon still breathes smoke like a sleeping dragon. The rescue chopper hovers low, dust and ash swirling in the downdraft. Paramedics jump out, moving fast, scanning for signs of life. The SEALs stand together, bloodied, burned, and breathing. 12 went in, 7 walk out, 4 carried on stretchers, 1 wrapped in a flag that used to be a field marker. Kingston leans against a rock, bandage around his arm, exhaustion heavy in every blink. He's alive, but it doesn't feel like it. He watches as the medics tag bodies, friend and enemy alike, and drag them toward the chopper. No one speaks her name yet. Maybe because saying it makes it real. Monroe limps over, eyes red from smoke and something deeper. He holds up the dog tag. "You gonna give this to command?" Kingston takes it, turns it in his hand. The metal glints faintly, letters burned black. "No," he says quietly, "not yet." At Bram Airfield, the world keeps spinning like nothing happened. Engines still roar, radios still buzz, planes still land. Caldwell stands in the operations room, staring at the blank radar feed, the one that used to show a single dot marked Reaper. "It's gone now." Approaches hesitating. "Sir, recovery team confirms visual on the wreck. Minimal remains. They're bringing back fragments." Caldwell nods once. "Understood." "Should I file it, sir?" KIA confirmed. Caldwell's eyes stay fixed on the static-filled screen. "Not yet." Outside lands her F-16 under dusk. The tarmac glows orange, the wind soft, almost mournful. She kills the engines and just sits there. The ground crew waits, not daring to move. They've seen that look before, the kind pilots wear when they've flown beside ghosts. Finally, she opens the canopy. The air rushes in, warm and dry. She climbs down slowly, removes her helmet, runs a hand through her hair, and stares toward the horizon, the direction of the canyon. "I told you not to do it," she whispers. No one answers. Later that night in the hangar, the lights are dim. Stands in front of Warthog 52, sister aircraft. It hasn't flown in months. The mechanics left it covered, untouched like a tomb. She reaches out, brushes dust from the nose art, the same gray wolf symbol, the same set of painted eyes staring back. "She didn't die in there for medals," says under her breath. "She did it because no one else would." A voice behind her, Caldwell. "She broke every regulation we have. Doesn't turn, and she saved 12 lives. Caldwell steps closer. That doesn't make it right. Doesn't make it wrong either. He sighs. You think I don't understand? I signed the papers that grounded her. I told her she'd never fly again. Finally looks at him. Then maybe you should be the one to tell the families she saved why she did it anyway. He meets her eyes, sees no anger, only truth. And for the first time, Colonel Thomas Caldwell has nothing to say. The desert the next morning feels different, quiet, lighter somehow. The recovery team returns with debris, torn panels, scorched metal, fragments of an ejection seat that never fired. They find traces of her flight suit, nothing else. No remains, no body. Just absence. Caldwell watches from a distance as the evidence is, a folder in his hand, a dozen forms inside. KIA confirmed. He doesn't sign. Joins him, arms folded, still no remains. None. Could been vaporized in the blast. He shakes his head, maybe. Studies him. You don't believe she's dead. I believe in physics, he says quietly, but I also believe in Wolf, and she doesn't fit into either. Meanwhile, back at the canyon, Kingston and his surviving men oversee extraction. They're quiet, the kind of quiet that comes after surviving something you shouldn't have. The Black Hawk lifts the last stretcher. The rotors stir the dust into spirals that fade into the sky. Kingston lingers at the edge of the landing zone, staring toward the wreck site. Chief, Monroe calls, Bird leaving. Kingston doesn't move. You go ahead. Monroe hesitates, then climbs aboard. The chopper lifts off, leaving Kingston standing alone in the wind. He walks toward the wreckage, past burnt stone, past the crater that swallowed her bird. And then he sees it. Something small, half buried in the sand. A footprint. Not deep, fresh, human. He kneels, the tread's distinct military-issue pilot boot. He looks around. The trail leads toward the east ridge, then vanishes among the rocks. Kingston exhales, a sound halfway between disbelief and hope. He looks down at the dog tag in his fist. Not yet, he whispers. 2 days later, the official statement hits the news. Captain Wolf, Reaper, killed in action during unauthorized rescue operation in the Canyon region. Her actions saved 12 U.S. Navy SEALs. Photos flash across screens. Her Academy portrait, her A-10, the canyon smoke. The world learns her name, just as she can't answer it anymore. People argue hero or rogue, savior or reckless. Command holds a memorial, speeches are made, flags folded, music played. Caldwell stands before the assembled ranks, reading from a paper that feels heavier than it should. Captain Wolf embodied courage under fire. She disobeyed orders to save lives. She broke protocol, yes, but sometimes humanity demands it. He pauses, looks up from the page, and maybe we need a little more of that. Stands among the crowd, hands clasped tight. When they call for a moment of silence, the bass falls still. Engines stop, radios mute. The airfield goes utterly quiet, a sky full of absence. That night sits alone in her quarters, light from her laptop flickering across her face. The recording plays, cockpit audio recovered from the crash, the final minute of mission. Static warnings, then her voice faint but calm. Tell them I finished what I started. Then silence. Closes the laptop, leans back in her chair and exhales. You did, Wolf, she whispers. You finished all of it. Meanwhile, hundreds of miles away, in a border village across the desert, a dust storm rolls through. A truck stops near an old medical tent. Inside, a local doctor treats the wounded left behind after the battle. He looks up as a figure steps through the flap, tall, lean, wrapped in a desert shawl, face shadowed, hands gloved. The woman doesn't speak. She just sets something on the table, a blood-stained dog tag with the name Wolf, Kiram. The doctor stares, then looks up at her. "You are hurt." She shakes her head. "No, they are." Outside, two villagers help carry in wounded men. Not Americans, not enemies, just people. She kneels, helps lift one onto a cot. Her movements are slow, steady, deliberate. The doctor watches her with quiet recognition. "You are a pilot?" he asks softly. She doesn't answer, just glances toward the horizon, toward the smoke still faintly visible in the distance. When she finally speaks, her voice is low, rasped by dust and grief. "I was." At Bram, receives a small, unmarked envelope a week later. No return address, no note, just one thing inside. A photo. The canyon at dawn, a line of footprints leading east. And below it, 3 words written in black ink. "Tell Caldwell nothing." Stares at it for a long time, then folds it once, slides it into her flight jacket and says nothing. Some truths, she decides, aren't meant for reports. Weeks pass. Life moves on. The SEAL team recovers, redeploys. Command files its paperwork. Pilots train, missions resume. But those who knew her carry something heavier than medals. Kingston keeps the dog tag, the second one he found among the wreckage, bent but not burned. Monroe keeps her patch, the gray wolf. Keeps the photo. Caldwell keeps her file unsigned. Each of them holding on to a different kind of proof. Proof that maybe she didn't die in that canyon. Proof that maybe some people don't belong to the world anymore. They just guard it unseen. In the desert, the wind moves through the wreckage like a sigh. Somewhere beyond the dunes, a small campfire burns. A figure sits beside it, wrapped in the same shawl, cleaning a sidearm with methodical calm. Her hands are, her eyes steady, reflective, alive. She looks up at the stars, the same stars she once flew through, and whispers almost to herself. "They'll think I'm gone." A pause. "Good." She tosses the rag into the flames, stands, and disappears into the darkness beyond the firelight. Because some wars don't end when the shooting stops. And some soldiers don't come home, because home stopped existing the day they left it. But sometimes, the ones who vanish aren't lost. They're just doing what they've always done. Flying low, quiet, watching over the ones who still fight. How long does it take before a name becomes a ghost story? A month, maybe 2. Long enough for the world to forget, but not the ones who owe it their lives. By the time summer bleeds into another deployment season, the canyon has already been renamed by the locals. They call it Our Al, the poet of death, the place where a woman wrote her final verse in smoke and flame. At Bram Airfield, the memorial still stands. A plaque, a flag, a framed photo of Captain Wolfe beside her A-10. Pilots pass it every morning, some saluting, some just looking once before walking faster. Stops there every night before heading to the flight line. She never says anything. She doesn't have to. Sometimes, silence is the only language the dead understand. Caldwell signs reports he doesn't read anymore. The war keeps its pace, missions in, missions out, names changing but losses staying constant. He's good at pretending, but late at night, he sits in his office long after the base quiets, staring at the photo on his desk. Wolfe grinning in the cockpit, headset slightly askew, a smear of grease on her cheek. He remembers the day she took that picture, a maintenance drill gone wrong, a hydraulic line burst, her hands covered in oil. She laughed. He hadn't seen her laugh again after that. When Noxon steps in, he doesn't look up. "They're saying the canyon's off limits now," she says. "Command calling it a no-fly zone." Caldwell exhales. Superstition or strategy? Both. She steps closer, drops a folder on his desk. "You'll want to see this." Inside, an after-action report from a recon drone 2 days ago. Infrared stills, desert, wreckage, but one image different, faint heat signatures near the crash site. Human, moving east. Locals, he asks. Could be, but the path leads 20 kilometers past any settlement, and there's this. She slides a photo across the desk. Distinct military tread. He looks at her. Where did this come from? Kingston, he went back. Caldwell leans back in his chair, face unreadable. You think she's alive? I think she's too stubborn to die. He closes the folder slowly. We don't chase ghosts, Captain. Meets his eyes. No, sir, but sometimes they chase us. Elsewhere, Kingston and Monroe ride in the back of a supply truck bouncing across desert roads. Their team's been reassigned border patrol, low visibility. Officially, rest and observation. Unofficially, exile with medals. Monroe flips through a small, worn notebook. Sketches, notes, fragments of coordinates. You ever sleep? Kingston asks. Monroe shrugs. You ever stop looking? Kingston smirks faintly. Point taken. Monroe glances out the window at the endless sand. You think she made it? Kingston hesitates. I saw the footprints. Could been anyone. Could. They fall quiet. Then Monroe says, You still have the tag. Kingston pats his chest pocket. The metal clinks softly. Always. The truck jolts over a dune, the horizon glowing orange. Neither of them sees the dust plume far off to the north, the faint trail of another vehicle moving parallel to theirs, silent, deliberate. In a village near the border, a local mechanic welds together scavenged aircraft parts, old fuselage, wings, panels marked with faded serials. A child watches, eyes wide, as sparks light the dusty courtyard. What is that? The boy asks. The mechanic doesn't answer. Because he doesn't know who paid him, or why they wanted it done quietly, or why the woman in the shawl always stood back, never showing her face. He just knows she pays in US dollars and moves like a soldier. When he finishes welding the final piece, a titanium control lever from an A-10, she steps forward, testing it in her hands. It fits perfectly. You build again, the boy asks her in broken English. She pauses. No, I repair. He tilts his head. Repair what? She looks toward the east, toward the faint hum of distant jets. Something broken. Back at Bram, rumors start to spread. A convoy ambushed near the mountains reports being saved by an unidentified aircraft, no transponder, no call sign. The gunfire stopped, the enemy vehicles exploded, and then silence. Intel analysts call it friendly fire, a drone misfire coincidence. But the SEALs who lived through Canyon hear it differently. They call it the Reaper. Reads the incident report 3 times. She sits in the flight line office, staring at the words. A-10 type engine signature detected briefly, unregistered, vanished before visual contact. She grabs her radio. Ops confirm any A-10s deployed in Sector 9. Negative, ma'am. Closest Warthog is 200 clicks west. She leans back, heartbeat quickening. Then what the hell was that? Silence. The tech on the other end finally says, people are saying it's her. Closes her eyes. People say a lot of things. But she doesn't believe her own words. Caldwell gets the report too. He doesn't say a word about it. Just closes the file, locks it in his drawer, and sits there staring at nothing for a long time. He knows better than anyone. Machines don't vanish like ghosts. But people with purpose, they can. 3 nights later, Kingston's camp is hit. Mortar fire, sudden and brutal. The world turns into light and sound. Monroe dives into a trench, incoming from the north. Kingston grabs his rifle, crawls to the comm station. Where's air support? Sir, can't get through, radio jammed. Another explosion tears through the desert. Kingston curses, looks at the horizon, black smoke rising, streaks of tracer fire slicing through the night. They're cut off. Then through the chaos he hears it. A sound he thought he'd never hear again. Low, mechanical, predatory. The sound of an A-10's engines winding through the dark. "Monroe," he yells, "you hear that?" Monroe freezes, eyes wide. No, no way. Kingston grabs his radio anyway. "Reaper, if that's you, we're down 2 clicks east of Pass. They've got us zeroed." Static. Then a voice. Faint, distorted, unmistakable. "Copy." Kingston's heart slams in his chest. Holy shit. The night erupts. A shape streaks low across the desert, dark against darker sky. No lights, no transponder. Then the sound, that impossible roar. BRRRRT. The entire North Ridge disintegrates. Enemy fire cuts off mid-burst. Every man in the trench looks up, disbelief turning to reverence. "Reaper's here," Monroe whispers. No one corrects him. The aircraft loops once, makes a second pass, then vanishes into the horizon like it never existed. Only the smell of jet fuel remains. Back at Bram, the radio logs register it. 2 seconds of encrypted bandwidth, classified frequency, no identifier. Caldwell listens to the playback, the faint, distorted voice repeating a single word. "Copy." He leans back, hands clasped, and exhales through his nose. Bursts into the room. "You saw it too." He nods once. "Then it's her," says, voice trembling. "It has to be. Or someone wants us to think so. Would it matter?" He looks at her, and for the first time since that canyon, he almost smiles. Maybe not. Days later, Kingston receives a small package in the mail at forward camp. No return address. Inside, a folded strip of gray metal, part of a wing panel. On it, scratched by hand, are 3 words. "Still flying low." He stares at it for a long time, then closes his eyes. "Welcome back, ma'am," he whispers. Weeks pass, and the legend grows. Convoys report unseen cover. Drones spot impossible heat trails. Enemies whisper about the Gray Widow, a phantom that hunts only when soldiers are trapped and hope is gone. Every report different. Every story ends the same. Someone lives who shouldn't have. The Pentagon calls it myth. The soldiers call it mercy. Sits in her jet at dawn, ready for launch. Her headset crackles with pre-flight checks. Viper comms test, channel 3. Loud and clear, she replies automatically. Then faintly, another voice bleeds through the static. "Nice sunrise." Freezes. "Who is this?" No answer. "Identify yourself." Silence. Then a soft chuckle, low, familiar. "Fly safe, Viper." The comm cuts. Her breath catches. She looks east, toward the light rising over the desert. "Damn it, Wolf," she whispers. Then smiles. "Still watching, aren't you?" Sometimes, legends aren't born from victory. They're born from refusal, the kind that defies both death and duty. And somewhere in that desert sky, beneath the hum of distant engines, the world keeps asking the same question. Was she ever gone at all? How does a story become a creed? It starts with whispers, the kind soldiers trade when the night's too long and fear's too close. Then it spreads. The Reaper isn't a person anymore. She's a promise. A whisper through static when hope runs out. A low growl of engines no one can quite explain. And somewhere in the heart of the desert, that promise still flies. 2 months since the canyon incident. At Bram Airfield, they've painted her name on the side of a hangar, Wolf's Den. Unofficial, unauthorized, but no one dares remove it. New recruits point at it during training. That's where the rogue pilot flew from, they say, the one who saved the SEALs. The instructors don't correct them. Because every base needs its myth, something too wild to be sanctioned, but too sacred to erase. Walks the tarmac at sunrise, her helmet under one arm. The sky is washed gold, the kind of light that softens everything, even the ghosts. She stops near the A-10 hangars. Warthog 52 gleams under the morning sun, ready for flight testing after months of disuse. The mechanics worked in silence the night before, tightening bolts, repainting panels, polishing the canopy until it reflected the dawn. Places her palm on the fuselage. She'd have liked this light. Behind her, Caldwell's voice. She'd have hated the paint job. Turns, half smiling. She'd have called it too clean. He joins her, hands in his pockets. We got a report this morning. Convoy under fire near the border. Survived thanks to an unidentified, again. His eyes flick toward the horizon. She's not done. Caldwell sighs. If she's alive, she's not working for us. She's off the grid completely. Does that bother you? He looks at the sky, long and slow. Not as much as it should. That afternoon, Kingston and Monroe report to base for debriefing. The first time either has returned since the rescue. They look different now, heavier with the kind of knowledge you can't file in an after-action report. Caldwell greets them in his office. You boys took your time. Kingston shrugs. Couldn't find a road that didn't remind us of her. Monroe drops a small, wrapped bundle on Caldwell's desk. Found this near pass. Figured it belonged here. Caldwell unwraps it carefully, a small metal plate, worn smooth by sand. The engraved serial number is almost gone, but the faint silhouette of a wolf is still visible. He stares at it a long time. Where exactly did you find it? Near the ridge where she went down, Kingston says. No wreckage nearby, just that entire tracks. Caldwell frowns. Vehicles. Motorcycles, 2, maybe 3, headed south. Steps forward from the corner. South leads nowhere but the salt plains. Nothing survives out there. Kingston meets her gaze. Then maybe she did. That night, a storm rolls through Bram. The kind that strips paint off hangars and tests the nerves of everyone on night shift. Sits in the control tower, watching lightning flicker across the desert. The base lights blur through rain. She's alone. Radios hum quietly, just background noise. Then she hears it. A faint blip on the radar. She leans closer. 1 dot, unregistered, fast. Ops confirm, she begins but stops. Because she already knows what the pattern looks like. Low flight path, no transponder, A-10 signature. She opens the comm channel, breath steady. Reaper, if that's you, you're late for briefing. Silence. Lightning flashes. For an instant, something moves across the horizon. A shape, wide wings, familiar. Then gone. She exhales slowly, smiling despite herself, still flying low. Elsewhere, miles away, a group of young soldiers sits around a fire in an outpost near the border. Their mission's simple: watch, report, survive the boredom. But boredom's replaced tonight by the oldest ritual of all storytelling. The new kid, Private, leans forward. You really think she's still out there? Staff Sergeant Vega spits into the sand. I don't think I know. I was in 6 weeks ago. Heard the sound myself. A-10 engines close, too close. Frowns. Could been anything. Vega shakes his head. Not this. You don't forget that sound once you've heard it. It's like thunder with a heartbeat. Another soldier adds, they say she shows up when units get cut off. Doesn't say a word. Just cleans the sky and disappears. Laughs. Sounds like a bedtime story. Vega's voice hardens. She's the reason my team's still breathing. Don't ever call her that again. The fire crackles. No one speaks after that. Outside the circle, the desert wind whistles softly through the wires, like distant turbines echoing a memory. In the capital, bureaucrats argue over her legacy. Committees debate whether to declassify her final mission. Politicians want to turn her into a PR campaign, the rogue angel of. Caldwell shuts it down before it begins. She wasn't an angel, he tells them flatly. She was a soldier. She made a choice, and she paid for it. When they push for details, he says the same thing every time. Her record stands. Because legends shouldn't have paperwork. Weeks pass, the desert cools at night, the war doesn't. Starts flying recon over the canyon again. Routine survey, she tells command, but everyone knows what she's really doing. Each flight ends the same, empty radar, empty sky. But sometimes, when she cuts her engines low, she swears she can hear a whisper in the static. Not words, just presence. One night she leaves a flare marker in the canyon, right above the ridge where fell. Bright red lasts 3 minutes. A signal without a message. She watches it burn from above, the light painting the rock walls crimson. Then she flies home, smiling faintly. 2 days later she returns. The flare's gone, but something else is there, scrawled in black soot across a rock face. Nice trick, Viper. Sits in her cockpit, heart hammering, unable to move for a long time. Back at Bram, Caldwell receives a classified message from CENTCOM. Untraceable origin. Text only. She's fine, stop looking. No encryption key, no source code. Just those 4 words. He reads it once, then deletes it. In the following weeks, something starts to change in the way soldiers talk about courage. They stop saying by the book. They start saying fly like wolf. It spreads first among pilots, then infantry, then command. Fly like wolf means do what's right, not what's safe. Keep your head when the world's on fire. And never, ever wait for permission to save someone's life. Caldwell hears it in briefings, hears it in mess halls. And one morning he smiles for real. Because the woman who broke his chain of command ended up reforging it into something stronger. Months later, a humanitarian convoy moves through the southern corridor, medical supplies, food, children. It's supposed to be safe. It's not. Gunfire erupts from the ridges, ambush. The lead truck explodes, chaos. The radio crackles with panicked voices. This is Convoy Echo, we're pinned, request immediate air support. No response. Then the sound. Low, rising, familiar. The drivers look up. There she is. A gray silhouette cutting through the smoke, the warthog's wings gleaming in sunlight. She doesn't broadcast, doesn't identify. She just dives. BRRRT. The ridges light up, the attackers scatter. The convoy survives. When it's over, she banks once, waggles her wings, a pilot's silent salute, then vanishes into the clouds. The youngest medic, barely 19, stares upward in awe. Who was that? An older sergeant grins. That's the one who doesn't quit. At Bram, when news of the convoy reaches command, and Caldwell share the same look, disbelief wrapped in relief. Finally says it aloud, she's alive. Caldwell nods once, or something like it. They both turn toward the window, watching the desert stretch into infinity. That night writes a letter. No address, no name, just words that needed to exist. You were right, orders end, people don't. They're calling it a miracle, I'm calling it what it is, you. Wherever you are, keep flying. I'll keep watching the sky. She folds it, seals it, and leaves it under the Wolf's Den plaque at dawn. By evening, the letter's gone. Sometimes, legends grow not because people need to believe in heroes, but because they need to remember they're allowed to be human again. And somewhere in the empty skies of under the same stars that once guided her home, Captain Wolf still flies, not as a ghost, not as a savior, but as the echo of a choice that never stopped maturing. What do you do when a ghost keeps saving the living? You stop calling her a ghost. By winter, the stories have. Every outpost from Kandahar to has its own version. A convoy rescued, a platoon spared, a pilot who appeared out of nowhere and vanished into static. Some call her the Gray Widow. Others, Angel of. But to those who knew her, she's still just. Wolf, Reaper, The woman who never asked to be a legend and became one anyway. At Bram Airfield, life has found its rhythm again. Engines hum, hangars echo with laughter, but something's different now. No one looks at the sky the same way. Caldwell walks the line every morning before sunrise. It's habit now, the quiet hours before the briefings, before the noise. He stops at the memorial wall, eyes tracing the engraved names. His hand rests on hers. Wolf Kram. Officially, she's dead. Unofficially, the desert disagrees. In the briefing room stands at the head of a new flight squadron, younger pilots, eager, restless. The emblem on their shoulders isn't standard issue. A gray wolf, teeth bared, wings behind it. Caldwell walks in mid-speech. You get permission for that patch, Captain. Smiles faintly. You taught me better than to wait for permission. He laughs once softly, fair. She turns to her pilots. You'll fly like she did, not for orders, for people. You'll remember that sometimes saving one life matters more than following 100 rules. One of the rookies raises his hand. Ma'am, you really think she's still out there? Meets his gaze. I don't think. She pauses, the corners of her lips lifting. I know. Weeks later, receives a coded message through an encrypted sat line. No sender ID, no routing, just a string of coordinates and one line of text. If you're going to look for me, bring fuel. She stares at it, heartbeat slow but steady. Within the hour, she's in the air. The desert below glows copper under the sun. The radio stays silent, except for the hum of static. She flies low, following the coordinates across endless dunes until the landscape changes, ridges rising like old bones from the sand. Then she sees it. A small outpost, half buried, barely visible. A makeshift hangar built from scavenged metal, marked with a faded wolf insignia on the side. She circles once, then lands. When she kills the engines, the silence feels alive. She climbs down, scanning the horizon. Nothing moves. Then footsteps. Soft, certain. Wolf steps out from the shadow of the hangar. She looks different, leaner, weathered, older somehow, but her eyes are the same. Clear, unblinking, steady as the desert sun. Can't speak at first. You're supposed to be dead. Shrugs, a faint smile touching her lips. Paperwork's overrated. For a long moment, neither moves. The air between them hums with everything left unsaid, grief, pride, relief. Finally steps forward, stops within arm's reach. Why stay gone? Looks past her toward the sky. Because up there they'd turn me into a statue. Down here I can still do something that matters. Studies her face. You've been flying. Only when someone's dying. Command thinks you're a myth. Smile fades into something gentler. Good, myths can't be court-martialed. Laughs softly, shaking her head. You insane, magnificent. Interrupts with a quiet, firm tone. You shouldn't have come. Too late. They stand in silence, the wind tugging at their flight suits. Finally asks, so what now? His gaze drifts toward the horizon, smoke rising in the far distance. There's always another canyon. Back at Bram, Caldwell receives an encrypted transmission hours later. No voice, no visuals. Just telemetry, A-10 altitude, heading, and a short message embedded in binary. Reaper OPS active. He sits back, exhales slowly and smiles. That night and fly side by side, two silhouettes against a blood-red sunset. No call signs, no orders, just two aircraft cutting through the wind like old friends chasing what's left of their purpose. Over the radio, breaks the quiet. You really planning to keep this up forever? His reply comes soft. Forever's shorter than people think. Then what's next? Find the lost, fix what I broke. Hesitates, you didn't break anything. Doesn't answer. The next day, they split at dawn. Returns to Bram. Doesn't. When lands, she finds a small package on her seat, a steel pendant shaped like a wolf's head, carved from A-10 titanium. On the back, a single engraving. "Don't follow." Closes her hand around it. Too late for that too. Months pass. The legend grows louder. Command can't hide it anymore. Reports come in from aid convoys, border patrols, stranded medics. Always the same story. An aircraft appears, gray, silent, unmarked. It dives, destroys, disappears. No one's ever close enough to confirm the pilot. But every time, there's one familiar detail left behind. A gray wolf painted in ash on the nearest rock or wreck. At a press conference, a journalist asks Caldwell, "Colonel, can you confirm the identity of this so-called Gray Widow?" Caldwell glances at the cameras, his expression unreadable. "I can confirm she exists," he says slowly, "and that she saves lives." The reporter presses, "Is she acting under U.S. authority?" Caldwell smiles just a little. "She acts under something higher than that," and walks off the stage. That night he finds sitting on the hangar roof, staring at the stars. "She's still flying," says quietly. Caldwell nods. Maybe she never stopped. They sit in silence for a long time, watching meteors streak across the sky, like slow-moving tracer rounds fading into infinity. "She always said the sky was the only place that listened," murmurs. Caldwell leans back, arms crossed. Maybe it finally answered. Meanwhile, far across the desert, a small group of villagers gathers under a pale moon. Above them, a distant roar echoes, soft, familiar fading. A young girl tugs her mother's sleeve. "Mama, who is that?" Her mother smiles, "Someone who remembers." Back at Bram, a new generation of pilots trains under. Their code's simple. No motto, no slogan, just the phrase painted in white on the hangar wall. "Fly like wolf." And every time a mission goes wrong, or a signal goes dead, they wait for that sound, the deep, growling hum of turbines somewhere above the noise. Most of the time, it never comes. But sometimes it does. And every time it does, someone lives. 1 year later, receives a small, unmarked envelope. Inside, a photograph. Sitting on a dune beside her aircraft at sunrise. Her hair tied back, a faint smile on her lips. On the back, written in neat block letters, "I stopped running. The sky's quieter now. Keep them flying straight." Presses the photo to her chest, eyes closing. "Roger that, Reaper," she whispers. "Mission acknowledged." The desert never tells its secrets, but it remembers those who listen to it. And sometimes, when the wind moves just right, it carries the faintest echo of engines, distant, defiant, alive. Because some stories don't end with victory. They end with endurance. And some people don't come back because they're not meant to. They stay out there, not as martyrs, not as ghosts, but as reminders. That courage isn't loud. That mercy doesn't ask. That dignity doesn't speak, it simply acts. The sky takes what it wants. But sometimes it gives something back. And in the fading light over canyon, where stone still remembers the sound of thunder with a heartbeat, a single gray silhouette cuts across the sun. Low, steady, unbroken. The last flight of a woman who never quit flying.